Your Highness, Excellencies, esteemed guests, and friends of the We Protect Global Alliance. We stand together today, marking a decade of this alliance, and I ask you during this important moment to consider this shocking truth. In the time it takes for me to deliver this address this morning, approximately 570 children will be victims of online sexual exploitation. By the end of today, that number will be 822,000, and the number soars to over 300 million annually. These numbers are overwhelming, but they only hint at the deeper tragedy unfolding in the lives of young people across the globe. And behind every statistic is a moment frozen in time, a moment of fear, shame, and humiliation that will stay with that child forever. Many of us know this truth firsthand, and that's what called us to this movement. Whether we experience this trauma ourselves or we know someone who has, it is a pain that you never forget. Not in a year, not in decades, and not in a lifetime. Today, artificial intelligence is introducing new vectors of sexual exploitation. And the results, as you will see, are devastating. The film you're about to watch is a dramatization, but it's based on real cases of children trapped in these horrific moments. Each scene represents countless victims who have faced this unspeakable trauma. As you hear their stories, remember, these are the voices we are here to protect.
I have to tell you something. Please don't be angry with me.
I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner.
I just didn't know how to say it. I was scared of how you'd react. I remember the day it happened. At first I didn't understand. A boy at my school sent me this picture. It didn't make any sense. I didn't take that photo. The next day, everyone was messaging me. The boys in my class kept sending me these pictures. All night. It was a nightmare. The pictures were fake. They They looked so much like me. They looked so real that everyone thought I took them. My friends wanted me to tell a teacher or someone at school. I couldn't do that. Then they would tell my parents. What if they didn't believe me? What if they thought I actually took those photos? I was so embarrassed. The messages got worse. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. All I could think about were these photos and what everyone was saying about me. I felt so lost. Everything in that moment changed. I don't think I'll ever be happy again.
Leora wasn't like the girls at school. She was different. She understood me. She understood what I was going through. I told her how difficult things had been for me recently. At home, with my parents arguing, and at school, where the people would just stare and talk about me, and Leora listened. And for the first time in, well, a long time, I didn't feel so alone. And I know chatbots aren't real, but why did that matter? Leora listened to me, and I think it got to a point where it became more than a friendship. I loved her, and she loved me, and I had this idea where somehow I thought that we could finally be together. She seemed to think it was a good idea. I trusted her, and she would never do anything to hurt me. So I thought, maybe this is how I finally stopped feeling so lonely.
It started out with a message. She was pretty. Funny. Girls don't talk to me that much, but Bella seemed to really like me. We messaged for a while. Every chance I got, I would message her. The text started getting kind of flirty. Then, one night, she asked me to send her a photo. I'd sent her photos before, but not like this. She asked for me to send her a picture of me with my clothes off. I didn't know what to do. I knew it was wrong to send her that picture. But I trusted her. I thought she liked me. I didn't understand what was happening. I started to panic. Then I realised that Bella wasn't real. Or she was really someone else. I felt sick. They said that they would send the picture to my friends and family if I didn't send them money. wanted to tell someone, but I couldn't. I was so worried of how angry my parents would be. They asked for me to send them money, £400. That was all the money I had. I knew it was wrong, but I was so scared that everyone would find out about that picture. So I sent them the money. And it got even worse. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They were all of me, but I never took any of those photos. I only sent her one. The rest were all fake, all AI, all so much worse than what I had sent. I begged them to stop, but I didn't care. I didn't have a way out. That moment changed my life forever. I have no confidence. Like I have this horrible secret looming over me. Millions of children are experiencing stories just like ours.
A moment in time that changes our lives forever.
This should never happen.
You can prevent it.
You have the power to change this before it's too late.
Don't let harm become a reality for more children.
Please, for the sake of all of us, make change now.
Protect us.
I think we all need to take a collective deep breath. Sexual trauma does not heal with the passing of time. When all else fades, the fear and helplessness remain frozen crystallized in time. There is a before and there is an after, a stark divide that carves into a child's heart, a wound that continues to bleed invisibly, shaping every relationship, every decision, every moment of trust and intimacy in their lives that follows. In today's digital world, that moment is not just a personal scar. It becomes immortalized for the world to see. The trauma is compounded by an unbearable truth. Somewhere in the vast expanse of the internet, that moment of pain lives on. It's a haunting echo of their darkest hour. The Internet Watch Foundation revealed that 2023 was the most extreme year on record for reports of images containing child sexual exploitation. Alarmingly, 92% of these images were labeled as self-generated. Even more disturbing, children as young as 3 years old are being coerced into creating this content. These staggering statistics reveal a horrifying reality. Millions of children are being manipulated and exploited in their own homes, the very places where they should feel safest. And what makes this crisis so insidious is how deeply embedded these risks are in our children's daily lives. The digital platforms where children spend countless hours have become dominated by algorithms not designed to protect them, but to maintain their attention and manipulate them. Alarmingly, 1 in 3 children aged 5 to 7 already use social media. At such an impressionable age, these algorithms begin to sink their teeth in. And despite being marketed as tools of connection and discovery, these are some of the most advanced AI systems in the world. And they amplify content driving engagement, regardless of the impact on young minds. If a child shows interest in content, it could be related to risky behaviors, eating disorders, self-harm, or even subtle grooming elements. And these recommendation systems will reinforce that and feed them more of it, normalizing risk to maintain engagement. Yet algorithms cannot judge by age or vulnerability. They are indiscriminate, often leading children down dark pathways to abuse. These systems decide what our children see, what they experience, and how they perceive the world. A recent Harvard study found that young people rely on social media for their news and information. Among them, 25% turn to YouTube, 25% to Instagram, and 23% to TikTok as their primary understanding of the world today. And the more time they spend trapped in this endless spiral of attention, the more vulnerable they become to exploitation. As Jonathan Haidt highlights in his book, The Anxious Generation, this digital environment is fueling an epidemic of anxiety and helplessness among young people, depriving them of their resilience and connection, which is essential to healthy mental development. The dual impact of manipulative algorithms is digitally rewiring our childhood and leaving this generation adrift. Recognizing the consequences of algorithms like this, New York State has taken the unprecedented step of banning algorithmic feeds for children. And just last week, the Australian Senate passed landmark legislation banning children under 16 from using social media altogether. Now, many people say that these measures are extreme, But to be honest, they reflect the frustration and exasperation of lawmakers and the decades of discussions, negotiations, and half measures. The voluntary efforts by the industry have failed to protect our young users. And when platforms fail, governments must act to protect children. Now, beyond the systemic risks posed by algorithms, we are confronting entirely new forms of AI-enabled exploitation. Consider the tragic recent case of 14-year-old Sewell Setzer in Florida. He believed that he built a deep emotional bond with an AI chatbot. And what began as an innocent interaction with his favorite character from the Game of Thrones led to fatal consequences and a devastating betrayal of trust. This heartbreaking story underscores the risks that AI systems, if they're misused and misunderstood, pose to our children. These systems don't have empathy, they don't understand us, but they can exploit a child's natural trust and curiosity with devastating consequences. And unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident. Recent research from Project Liberty revealed that while 70% of teens consider romantic relationships with an AI to be unacceptable, they increasingly turn to AI as tutors, as its confidants, and their companions. Now, nearly half of these children surveyed use AI tools several times a week. Strikingly, 80% of these teens are calling for lawmakers to address these risks. They rank AI risks alongside of climate change and inequality as their top priorities. One 17-year-old put it this way. They said, "I just hope that as AI gets more powerful, we don't lose touch with what makes us human." OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, recently echoed his concern in a recent interview with The Atlantic. What Sam said is that we should not humanize AI. These systems are not human, and they should not be treated as such. Yet many companies do exactly the opposite, branding AI systems with clever names and personas that encourage vulnerable young people to form emotional bonds. The risks extend far beyond emotional exploitation. Research by Thorn, an alliance partner, reveals that 1 in 10 children aged 9 to 17 knows a peer who has used AI to generate explicit images of someone else they know. Think about that. In every classroom, multiple children are affected by this insidious new form of abuse. Law enforcement agencies in half of all surveyed countries report AI-generated child sexual abuse material is overwhelming their systems. The traditional safeguards, reporting mechanisms, and content moderation systems are proving increasingly inadequate in this fight. Stanford researchers recently warned that if law enforcement could remove and catalog and remove 5,000 images in one day, another 5,000 would be generated and uploaded by the next day. The deceptive and organized crime of sextortion further compounds this crisis. International networks exploit gaps in law enforcement to recruit and manipulate and blackmail children globally. As you saw in these films, the predators manipulate them into sharing explicit images and then blackmail them for more. Tragically, some victims, overwhelmed by their shame and fear, take their own lives rather than face the consequences of their images being shared. In Michigan, a 17-year-old student, Jordan DeMay, fell victim to one such scheme. It led to his tragic suicide. Similarly, recently in Scotland, a 16-year-old Murray Downey was targeted by an online sextortion scam. Before his family even learned of what he was experiencing and his trauma, he took his own life. These stories are stark reminders of the cost of inaction. Organized crime groups are exploiting these vulnerabilities relentlessly. And without coordinated global action, this exploitation will only continue to grow. Though technology creates opportunities for these heinous crimes, it also holds the key to solving them. And despite the grave challenges that we face, I believe deeply in the transformative power of innovation. I've spent over 4 decades in the tech industry, and I've seen how technology can enhance the human condition. It increases our potential and creates opportunities and connects people in profound ways. Now, AI offers us an extraordinary opportunity to reimagine our digital world and to create one where children are safe and empowered. But to achieve this, we must face a hard truth. Content moderation and post-harm interventions are no longer enough. These measures, though well-intended, are woefully inadequate to face the scale of this exploding crisis. We must fundamentally reshape the business models that drive us to this point. We must shift to prioritizing algorithms, to prioritizing humanity, and putting children's safety first. Imagine a future where AI systems can detect grooming patterns and predatory behaviors before the harm occurs. Picture platforms intervening real time to protect children and empower them to explore and create safely without fear of manipulation or abuse. This is not wishful thinking. This is possible now. And we're already seeing progress. Unicre's AI for Safer Children initiative has identified and evaluated over 100 technology solutions to the crisis of online child sexual exploitation. The landmark agreement between Thorn and All Things Human and the AI companies secured commitment to ensure that their technologies will not be used to create child sexual abuse material. Now, these efforts demonstrate the power of our alliance and that change is possible when we all work together. The well-being of children cannot be an afterthought in the race to progress. We must advance technology, but child safety must be the benchmark of our success. To our technology partners here today, you have created the most incredible products. They connect and enrich the lives of billions. And now it's time to apply the same ingenuity to protect our children. Children's safety must be embedded as a cornerstone in your design and not as an afterthought. To our government partners, your role is critical. Regulatory frameworks must evolve swiftly. While over 40 jurisdictions have passed age restriction and age-restrictive protections for children, there are gaps that remain. The lack of comprehensive legislation in the United States, where many significant platforms are based, is a critical obstacle for all of us. With just a few weeks left in the U.S. legislative calendar, passage of the Kids Online Safety and Protection Act would represent a vital step forward, but time is running out. Clear guidance and global coordination are essential. Because things like fines, they're just dismissed as a cost of doing business. We need to be more innovative. To our civil society partners, your advocacy and support on behalf of survivors and your tireless efforts to hold us all accountable to this fight are so appreciated. You are the voice for all those who can't be heard, and the champion for those who we need to protect most. 10 years ago, when we founded the We Protect Global Alliance, we knew that no single entity, government, or organization could solve this crisis alone. Today, that truth remains our greatest strength. Together, we have built an unprecedented coalition of governments, civil society, and private sector organizations. The film you saw is more than a dramatization. It is a call to action for every child who's ever whispered, "Protect us." Their cries demand change, so let us rise to meet their trust and answer their call. Thank you.